The words settle the hurricane. Later the sheriff asks Hub why he turned into seeking out Deputy Briggs an hour earlier than the Hearthplace. Hub offers a filmy excuse and it looks like the sheriff believes him. A couple drives to the lake to have a good time. Their engagement. A large truck arrives after them. The guy Malik attempts to invite for a few privateness. The different guy does now no longer concentrate and hits him. A combat begins evolved among them. The lady Zoe begs them to prevent. Suddenly something peculiar takes place. A demon seems inside their small vehicle. It kills each guy's very speedy. The demon then enters their bodies and takes manage of them in city. Lucky receives out of prison after posting bail. He walks return to his bar and tells anybody that a person set him up. He believes matters gets higher quickly. He talks to one in all his co-employees and asks to shop for her an experienced truck somewhere else. Hub reveals something peculiar in the EE book his mother is analyzing. He learns that the locations wherein human beings had been killed shape a unique form. The form looks as if a celeb utilized in magic. Only one component is lacking and that component can be subsequent in the beyond. 9 years ago Midge commenced her dream activity as a pastry chef. She labored tough and those started out to be aware her then her son were given very unwell. He had most cancers. The coverage agency refused to pay for the remedy. She bought the whole thing she owned to assist him. It turned into nevertheless now no longer sufficient. She felt hopeless. Then she made a cope with the darkish pressure to shop her son and go back. She have become a person who reveals souls for the Satan. Now with inside the gift. Hub arrives at her residence without telling her first. She does now no longer welcome him and threatens to harm him. She wishes him to depart. Hub attempts to give an explanation for what he located. He thinks there is probably a manner to prevent the whole thing. He believes there may be a manner out in their deal. Midge tells him she already attempted. Her son have become unwell once more. She believes there may be no getaway. Hub leaves a few papers together along with her earlier than taking walks away. The papers display the peculiar sample. He determined his mom calls and warns him that Point is going for walks out. She tells him he have to seize a demon named Sliferus. The remaining clue factors to an area known as Landray. Hub drives there however does now no longer discover the demon. He comes to a decision to attend close to a bridge and units allure. He hopes the demon will encounter the lake and walk over the bridge. He waits there all night time. Soon the two demons seem they are sporting a lady. Hub begins evolved capturing them from his vehicle before he can prevent them. Lucky indicates up. He crashes his truck into Hub's vehicle. Hub climbs out without accidents however he cannot break out from Lucky. Kitty drives to the spot wherein Hub and Lucky had their crash. She reveals Hub's truck became the other way up. His TELSL smartphone sits at the seat and his shotgun lies close by at the floor. However Hub is long past she alternatives up what she will be able to and hear something odd at the radio. A police code comes through. Officers say they're heading to an area known as Landray Bait and tackle. Kitty hurries there. When she arrives she sees the identical girl from the lake. The girl is lifeless within inside the parking zone. A triangle is drawn at the floor around her. Kitty begins evolved to loosen up for a second, wondering Hub isn't the sufferer. Sheriff Ruby sees her and walks over. Kitty attempts to depart however Ruby follows her to the auto. She begins evolved asking questions. She notices Kitty's vest and desires to recognize what Kitty is doing in that vicinity. Kitty sits with inside the automobile and listens before Ruby leaves. She indicates all of them have lunch collectively. Quickly her deal with Kitty is of the same opinion however seems anxious. Ruby steps away while an officer calls her lower back to the scene. Hub wakes up. He is pressured and best carrying underclothes. A TELSL smartphone earrings close by the answering system. Alternatives up while he hears Kitty's voice on the message he is familiar with wherein he unearths himself locked within inside the small prison mobiliar behind his very own office. Fear grows interior him. The voice at the TELSL smartphone belongs to Midge. She says she checked out the papers and now believes Hub was proper. She wishes him to name her lower back as quickly as he hears the message. Then the decision ends. Lucky enters the room. He seems round and makes a impolite remark approximately the region. Hub attempts to speak to him, wishes him to unencumber the chains and warns approximately the demons. However Lucky isn't inquisitive about assisting. He begins evolved speaking approximately Marianne. He believes Hub saved her from having a higher existence. Lucky steps on Hub's hand after which hits his palms with a hammer. He says they're going to make a video for Marianne despite the fact that she in no way comes lower back to him. He desires to defend her from Hub. The digital digicam begins evolved recording. Lucky speaks into it. He warns Marianne to observe it on my own. He even offers her a second to ship Kate away. Lucky tells the reality approximately looking to have Hub killed. He additionally says Hub attempted to kill him first, then he turns round and tells Hub to give an explanation for what passed off to Cheryl. Hub remains quiet. Lucky choices up the hammer once more and breaks greater of Hub's hands 1 month in advance. Hub steps into the container automobile bar searching out Lucky. Tiny Earl stands at the doorway and tells him Lucky does now no longer need to be disturbed. Lucky is busy looking the Red Sox recreation. Hub asks him to allow Lucky recognize he's going to be ready. Tiny heads off to skip the message. Hub takes a seat on the bar and orders a drink. Cheryl pours it for him. She reminds him that giving freely liquids is not a part of the brand new policies. They speak for a quick whilst mainly approximately Soon Lucky comes downstairs and sits beside Hub. He desires to make peace for the sake of Marianne and Cade. He talks approximately how Hub has been digging into his beyond and displaying his document to Marianne. He believes Hub is attempting to make hassle for him in Boston. He says that his vintage lifestyles is over and no person is searching out payback. Hub does now no longer believe it. He tells Lucky that the first-rate factor he can do is stroll far from Marianne and Cade for all time. Lucky receives irritated, however, controls himself. He counts to loosen up. Hub maintains speaking. He says he's going to put off Lucky one manner or some other, although it way telling his vintage group that he grew to become on them. Then Hub punches Lucky. Tiny jumps in and grabs Hub. Lucky stands up and warns Hub that he is long gone too a long way. He walks off and leaves his hat at the bar. Tiny pulls Hub outdoor and beats him. He kicks Hub with inside the ribs and tells him that Lucky goes to kill him. He says Hub ought to go away. City later that night. Hub is parked outdoor the container automobile he is consuming from a flask, and considering what passed off he takes a gun from the glove container, however hesitates. He attempts calling Marianne, however her Telcel smartphone is going to voicemail. He choices up the bottle once more. Feeling irritated and misplaced, he stumbles into the bar. A gun is in his hand. He sees a person with inside the room. Placing matters away lies. Hat nevertheless rests at the bar. Hub thinks Lucky is right here. He receives equipped and movements speedy. The individual walks into the fridge region. Hub pulls the trigger. The man or woman falls, however the sound they make does now no longer sound like Lucky. Hub hurries in and sees Cheryl at the ground. She is shaking and bleeding. He turns her over and attempts to assist. She begs him to shock her. He says the whole thing could be Kay, however she dies in his fingers. In the workplace upstairs, Lucky hears the song Prevent the Quiet. Shall we him listen? Odd noises from beneath. A automobile begins evolved outdoor. He walks to the window and sees Hub's automobile rushing away. He goes downstairs to test. The ground is moist and scents like bleach. A roll of plastic wrap lies one half of open. His hat sits below a cart close by. In the prevailing, Lucky attempts to pressure Hub to talk on video. He desires Hub to inform Marianne what really came about on the membership. Hub increases his broken hand and offers a impolite signal. Lucky does now no longer like that and hits him once more with the hammer. At a song studio, Marianne and Cade stand in the front of microphones. They sing a music that Marianne used to sing with Hub. Their voices combination nicely. The sound technician claps and tells them to take a break. Cade feels uncertain approximately his component. Marianne smiles and tells him she feels distracted too. She talks approximately the first time she got here to Nashville and the way anxious she felt. Her Telcel smartphone begins evolved humming. The name comes from the Landry Sheriff's Department. She sends Cade to get a drink and solutions the decision. Ruby's voice performs on speaker. She tells Marianne that Lucky were given out of prison. Closing night time. Then she asks if Hub is together along with her. Marianne says that she and Cade are in Nashville. Ruby congratulates her on Cade's en route. She brings up the hardware shop in the sheriff's workplace. The opposite officials pay attention quietly. Marianne pauses earlier than pronouncing she went to shop for a fuse. Ruby asks once more if Hub was together along with her. Marianne says no. Ruby holds up a big image and pins it to a wall. She ends the decision and tells the group that Marianne is worried a new cord faucet could be wanted. The image suggests Marianne and Hub leaving the hardware shop together. It comes from an outdoor digital digicam back with inside the lockup. Hub stares at Lucky and dares him to complete him off. Lucky hears a sound close to the door and walks off wondering it is probably Kitty. Hub sees the hammer at the ground left at the back of the door. A person crouches and sniffs the doorknob. Lucky sees him absolutely now. It is the fisherman from the lake. However, something is inaccurate. The demon's life force has taken over his frame inside the mobilier. Hub forces his wounded hand via the cuff. The ache is sharp, however he maintains going out the front. Lucky appears up the different demon, a person who changed into lately engaged hangs from the ceiling like a spider. He jumps down and assaults Hub. Pulls his hand out simply in time. He grabs the hammer from the ground and makes use of the claw to snap off the final cuff. Hub runs to the door and sees Lucky firing his gun on the demon fisherman. The bullets do not anything. Lucky appears pressured. He crawls beneath a close by truck. However, the fisherman grabs his legs and pulls him out. His frame slams into the wall. Hub spots a shotgun he can carry with one hand. He hurries to seize it. He objectives on the demon from the ceiling, the engaged guy, and fires the shot. Pulls the fisherman's attention far from Lucky. Simply in time, the engaged demon takes a headshot. Fire bursts from its frame. It burns rapid and disappears. Hub turns to the fisherman and makes use of his very last bullet. The demon falls. However, it isn't useless. Lucky jumps with inside the inexperienced truck he sold from Trish. He drives away rapid, praying out loud with shaking fingers. Hub selections up a chainsaw. It roars to life. Styles. He pushes it into the fisherman's face. The demon explodes into flames and vanishes. Looking round, Hub grabs a hearthplace extinguisher. He does now no longer need the hearthplace to damage the building. This location topics to him. He places out the flames. Now the room holds burned our bodies. One nonetheless has the chainsaw caught in its cranium. Hub shuts the storage door with one hand. He moves a healthy and lighting fixtures a cigarette. He takes a breath and calls Kitty. Her voice is complete of alleviation. He tells her he's Kid. His eyes live constant on Cheryl's grave. Out of doors the window, Hub stands shirtless, blood masking his skin. Kitty stands some toes in the back of him in a diminished denim blouse. She enables him lower back domestic and wraps his hand in clean bandages. He says he can also additionally subsequently recognize why he ended up in hell. He is set to give an explanation for while a vehicle horn sounds. Marianne and Kate arrive. Hub doesn't need them to peer him like this. Kate says Marianne advised him a whole lot. Approximately the demons. Hub says the demons aren't actual and tells them to go away. Marianne speaks with honesty. She says Ruby referred to as her. Hub says this is greater cause to live away. Kate stands corporation. He says he isn't a child anymore and could now no longer be dismissed. Hub offers in and walks outdoor to them. Their faces display surprise after they see how he appears. He leads them internal to the bondsman workplace. Kate seems like he may throw up, however says he'll live with Hub. Hub turns to Marianne hoping she will alternate her thoughts. She says Kate has made his desire. Kitty tells Hub they might use them or assist. He appears worn out and annoyed. Marianne and Kitty start cleansing the vicinity. Hub sighs and prevents arguing. He says they are able to do what they need now. A boy kneels in a sandbox and pushes carrot sticks into the sand like seeds. His mom calls out, pronouncing he cannot play till his veggies are long gone. He lifts the empty bag and waves it, pretending he completed them. He runs closer to the roundabout and begins evolved spinning it for amusing. From the woods close by, something speedy and fiery bursts through the grass. It reaches the roundabout in seconds and the boy vanishes inside the storage workplace. Marianne appears on the clock. She asks Hub if Kitty and Cage ought to be lower back through now. Hub solutions that he has no concept how long it takes to cremate demon-possessed our bodies, in particular while it is his personal mom and son doing the process for the first time. Marianne wonders if the funeral domestic will inform the police. Hub says they won't. He and Kitty understand approximately the funeral home's unlawful enterprise and that is sufficient to maintain them quiet. A Telcel smartphone begins evolved ringing with a baseball sound. Marianne realizes it is last Telcel smartphone in the trash bag she's sporting. She pulls it out and gives to unencumbered. Hub tells her the Telcel smartphone has a video of Lucky torturing him. She seems disgusted and drops it proper again into the trash. Hub makes an arrogant remark, however Marianne does not recognize it. A vehicle horn honks out of doors. Kitty and Kate are again. Marianne is going out to greet them. Hub pulls the Telcel smartphone from the trash and smashes it with a hammer. Kate enters the room holding fried chook. Kitty says the activity is carried out. Our bodies are long gone. Marianne takes Kate apart to easy and reduce he were given from the cremation chamber. Kitty sits down beside Hub. She says she does not need to listen his motive for going to hell anymore now that the own circle of relatives is collectively once more. She desires to experience it. Hub says he is making an attempt to restore matters. The fax system makes a noise. A new paper comes out. The subsequent demon goal is indexed. It is a Pyrolus, a demon that controls Hearthplace. Hub reveals the closing sacrifice vicinity at the map. It is internal, a brand new housing location. Marianne says they want to get all of the humans out. Kitty says she does not care. The homes are unpleasant and may burn. She appears thrilled with that concept. Marianne and Kate sit quietly considering what's going to take place to Hub whilst that is throughout. Kitty claps her palms and tells anyone to gather. for a prayer circle. Another vehicle horn sounds out of doors. Midge has arrived. She explains that if the closing sacrifice succeeded to loose one of the shackled seven, these are antique angels who became towards heaven. Lengthy in the past, Midge appears bowled over that Hub's entire own circle of relatives is operating with him still. They begin making plans a way to clean the housing improvement. Kitty seems at Midge with a bold smile and tells her to assist too. Inside a quiet church, Lucky sits on my own and talks to God. He speaks approximately his beyond errors and his desire to alternate in the pew in the back of him. Tater listens and reminds Lucky that he become the only who first got here. Up with the witch concept, Lucky maintains questioning. He makes a decision that perhaps his irritated nature isn't a curse, however a gift. Maybe it become given to assist him combat Hub like a holy warrior. He asks for a signal from above. Just then Tater's telecell smartphone buzzes. It's a name from the police. Tater panics and says he did not snitch. Lucky appears on the telecell smartphone, then up on the altar. He wonders if that is a few form of Shaggy Dog story from God. In the housing improvement, everybody wears protection vests and hard hats. The Howrans and Midge pass door to door. They inform households to go away and quietly test if everybody is hiding something darkish. Interior, one residence belongs to an ordinary guy who is prepared to shoot. No one desires to assist him. Midge says they cannot leave him at the back of due to the fact the demon would possibly use him because the very last sacrifice. Hub sneaks into the residence. He makes use of a taser on the guy and drags him out through the front door. Midge enters the residence to double test. She comes throughout a touch boy, the identical one from the playground. Something feels off. She pulls out her small replicate and sees the fact the boy isn't an Ateni boy. The demon hides. Interior, him cracks fashioned like a triangle seam with inside the floor across the residence. Hub shouts from outside, telling her to get out. She increases her gun. Her fingers shake. She cannot pull the cause the floor breaks open and swallows the entire residence. Midge falls into the triangle-fashioned hollow. The sacrifice is entire. Back at Kitty's location, the own circle of relatives sits in silence. They all understand what simply took place. Midge is long gone. They collect in a quiet hug. It would not fix something, however it brings a small little bit of peace. Hub tells them that although matters did not quit properly, getting a threat to come lower back and be together along with his own circle of relatives once more intended something. It become one right aspect. In a completely darkish time they step lower back from each different. Everyone is misplaced of their personal mind. Hub sees a guitar close to his chair. He selections it up and starts strumming lightly. Marianne grabs her guitar and joins, and she starts evolved making a song, a music that brings warm temperature and reminiscence. Skate unearths his mandolin. Kitty selections up her vehicle mobile harp. They play collectively, their voices combination softly. The music speaks of a higher location ready above, an area in which the damaged portions of lifestyles come collectively once more. Later, Hub is having a drink when Marianne walks in and mentions how right he sounded in advance, especially with best one half of a hand he says they have got usually made a terrific crew. She kisses him, sits on his mattress and welcomes him to enroll in her at the sheriff's workplace. Lucky meets with Ruby. He makes her promise now no longer to head after Marianne. He offers her a folder with snapshots from the recycling plant and says he isn't always a snitch. Ruby flips through the pics and smiles. She tells an officer to name the district lawyer at the bond keep. Hub lies in mattress, one arm wrapped around Marianne as she sleeps. The workplace telecell smartphone starts evolved to ring. A fax comes through. Hub receives up slowly and examines the message. It's a goal from Pot Gold. The call is Lilith. He begins evolved up the laptop and brands in her call, and the brand new coordinates the vicinity indicates up, and his eyes pass extensive. It's the same location because the Howard Bond shop he runs outdoor. Cheryl's grave is open and empty. He falls to his knees, beaten. Flashback to the nighttime earlier. Then a hand rises out of the soil with inside the woods at the back of Kitty's residence. Cheryl now possessed actions faster than something human. She stares through a window looking. Hub and Marianne collectively. A truck horn echoes through the bushes. She opens a couple of wings and flies onto the pinnacle of the semi-truck. Back to the prevailing. Hub wakes up on the floor close to the grave. Marianne reveals him and calls his call. He solutions. She brings him an espresso. One examine him tells her something is incorrect. He says he handiest desired to preserve her and Kate secure from Lucky. She sees the empty grave. Hub says he changed into inebriated and notion. Cheryl changed into fortunate due to the fact she wore his hat. He buried her there. Now no longer understanding, she changed into already possessed. Marianne stares on the grave in surprise. Both espresso cups slip from her fingers and spill back on the resident's skate. Would not accept as true with any of it. Marianne and Kitty do. Their faces display ache and disgust. Marianne and Kate get into their vehicle and depart without any other phrase. Kitty closes her door in Hub's face. Hub is going to the outside and comes to a decision to deal with the antique tree stump once more. The gadget breaks down, so he grabs in all something actions with inside the woods. He yells into the bushes, bold, something is on the market. To return back, get him. A loud van horn cuts through the instant. A VW van pulls up and stops. The door opens. Midge steps out. Cosmo leans from the driver's seat and shouts something to Hub, approximately now no longer messing this up. Midge says she's been dispatched, returned to assist end the assignment. This is the closing threat for each of them. If they don't end it, their cherished ones might not continue to exist. What comes subsequent, she tells him extra. Approximately Lilith. Long in the past, Lilith had the maximum lovely voice in heaven. She changed into God's favorite, but different angels have become jealous. They tricked her into becoming a member of the Autumn so she could be thrown into hell and wish no Toon exists. Now Toon drives her mad. It pulls her closer like blood with inside the water. Lilith walks right into a small city diner. Her presence makes every person forestall what they are doing. People understand her and Cheryl Dawson, the lady who went lacking a month in the past. A few attain for his or her telephones to name the police. Lilith walks lightly to the jukebox and listens to the tune with a grin. Hub sits with Midge and stalks his thoughts. The closing time she escaped, she left a root of ache in the back of her. She attacked each guy she met till the clergyman at an abbey soon. Aurora later stopped her with chanting. Midge indicates Hub a drawing of the abbey and warns him that Lilith can manage minds back with inside the diner. The proprietor, a person, processes Lilith and touches her shoulder. Right after that, each one the guys with inside the room grasp their own jaws and rip them off. They fall to the ground. The girls close by do not anything to assist. Instead they fold their hands throughout their chests and bow to Lilith absolutely below her spell. Outside, the Howard domestic police vehicles fill the driveway. Sirens echo throughout the land. Kitty steps outdoor together along with her palms with inside the air. Lucky arrives with Sheriff Ruby and numerous officials. They all seek the storage. Hub isn't there. The area appears spotless. Hub and Marianne wiped clean it up so nicely that it now appears regular. The officials start to doubt Lie's tale. Approximately Demon's lucky factors to the pentagram on the wall, seeking to show that something evil occurred right here. No one is satisfied. Deep within inside the woods, Hub and Midge park a minivan. It looks like there is usually any other car equipped. Hub unpacks audio system and an amp gadget. He desires to trap Lilith to this spot. The usage of track. Midge asks what occurs after she indicates up. Hub pulls out a paper and indicates the pentagram comic strip, the identical shapes seen with inside the drawing of the abbey wherein Lilith turned into trapped earlier than he desires to recreate the lure. At the sheriff's station, Kate walks beside Marianne. Her palms are cuffed. Lucky waits for them. He says he's employed attorney for her. Marianne tells him to preserve a way. She tells Kate to name Kitty for assist. Lucky says Kitty has been arrested too. Kate appears at him with disbelief. He accuses Lucky of turning them in. Lucky says he did it below orders from a better electricity. He dares Kate to hit him. He then asks Kate to assist him get Marianne out of hassle. He needs Kate to mention that Hub brainwashed them. Kate refuses. He warns Lucky that no one's going to agree with him. Marianne steps into the small room used for police. Wondering, she sees Kitty sitting at a desk. Sheriff Ruby speaks lightly and tells Marianne to name Hub. She needs him to fulfill her on the container automobile. Marianne and Kitty each try and explain what Hub is honestly doing. However, Ruby does not need to pay attention. She warns them that if they do not want, Kate should be arrested with no desire. Marianne leaves a message for Hub in the woods. Hub tells Midge his plan. He desires to create the pentagram lure, the usage of small twigs organized like runes. Each set is going right into a espresso can to mark the factors. Midge is uncertain if this may paintings, however she has no higher idea. They set it up collectively. Hub talks approximately how risky Lilith's mind manages. Midge reminds him that human beings who've been to hell cannot be managed like that. She says the rule change into with inside a manual. Midge asks if Hub may hesitate to combat Lilith now that she is internal Cheryl's frame. He promises that he may not, then fingers her the tool that turns on the entice. He begins evolve the track. The sound travels some distance at the diner. Lilith hears it and takes to the air like lightning. Once she leaves, the spell over the girls fades. They begin screaming. One officer runs into the sheriff's workplace to inform Ruby what simply befell. He says anybody noticed Cheryl and she's definitely possessed. Kitty cheers. Ruby grabs her keys and hurries out. Lilith arrives on the clearing, however she remains simply outside the entice. Hub steps out and goals his gun. She sees him proper away and rushes at him. Her power sends him flying onto the minivan. She lifts him up and sources into the sky. Midge presses the button. The entice works. Lilith screams in ache and falls back off close to the minivan. She cries out to Hub and begs him now no longer to harm her. Once more she makes use of her energy to heal all his accidents. Then she gives him something greater. If he shall her move, she can be able to depart Cheryl's frame, maintain Cheryl. That could supply him lower back his own circle of relatives. Hub concurs. Lilith leaves Cheryl's frame and enters a black crow. The bruises on Hub's fingers disappear. He breaks the entice and wicked hair cross. The crow flaps its wings and flies into the sky. Midge appears at Hub's arm and calls him selfish. Hub says there may be usually a manner out. Cheryl wakes up and stands harassed. She calls Hub's call. He facilitates her get wiped clean up and brings her to the container vehicle. Trish runs to hug Cheryl. Kate and Kitty rush over to warn Hub that the police are coming to arrest him. Hub smiles. He believes the entirety is best now that Cheryl is alive. Ruby arrives together along with her officials. She tells Hub he's beneath death arrest. They cuff Cheryl too. She calls out to Hub, harassed and afraid. Hub appears calm and says the entirety can be K. Backstage, Marianne runs into her dressing room. Tears roll down her cheeks. She desires to be on my own. Lucky follows. However, she tells him to live away on her dress rack. The crow perches quietly. It stares at her. Marianne appears lower back at it, uncertain what it method. Lucky watches from outdoor because the police arrest Hub. He turns to Tater and says he is going to test on Marianne. He walks into the constructing and heads to her dressing room. Inside, Marianne stands on my own making a song, a smooth track without phrases. Lucky walks towards her slowly. He tells her she isn't always wondering virtually and says he'll make selections for each of them. Now he reaches out to touch her. An unseen pressure throws him difficult. In opposition to the wall, he crashes down in the reflect. Marianne's mirrored image isn't always her own. It indicates Lilith. Marianne continues making the song. Lies hand actions to his jaw. His frame shakes. He can't prevent himself under Lilith's manipulate. He tears off his jaw and falls to the ground useless. Out with inside the fundamental room, the black crow flies through the distance. Its wings make a noisy noise, drawing Hub's eyes. The cops strive to flow him alongside, however he stops. Marianne enters the room. She remains making a song. The track is haunting and exquisite. The phrases are from an antique ballad approximately dying. Everyone stops speaking. The air feels thick. Every guy with inside the room, even Kate, reaches towards his jaw. Only Hub does. Now no longer flow. Every female folds her fingers throughout her chest and bows her head. Hub sees the fact the discern in the front of him is now no longer Marianne. Wings stretch out in the back of her. Her voice sounds odd.